Deep in the Bavarian woods, about an hour's drive from Munich, there once stood a farmstead isolated by distance and silence. It was called Hinterkaifeck. In 1922, it was home to the Gruber family. They were wealthy, reclusive, and by all accounts, deeply troubled. But this story doesn't begin with death. It begins with a silent invasion. A few days before the tragedy, Andreas Gruber, the patriarch, noticed something that disturbed him. Etched into the pristine snow, a line of strange footprints emerged from the dense, dark forest. They marched straight across the fields, leading directly to his front door. Andreas followed the tracks, searching for the return path, but there was none. The footprints led into the house, and they never came out. Paranoia began to rot the household from the inside out. Andreas told neighbors of strange noises in the attic at night, heavy, rhythmic footsteps pacing directly above their beds. He checked the attic. It was empty, but the presence remained. Then, objects began to vanish. A set of house keys disappeared into thin air. A newspaper from Munich appeared in the kitchen, a paper no one in the family had subscribed to. Someone was living with them. Someone was reading their news, watching them sleep, and waiting in the shadows. On March 31st, a new maid, Maria, arrived for her first day of work. It would also be her last. That night, one by one, the family members were lured into the barn. First Andreas and his wife, then their widowed daughter, Victoria, and her 7-year-old daughter, Kazelia. They walked into the darkness, and the darkness swallowed them whole. The killer was waiting with a mattock, a heavy pickaxe used for digging. The violence was brutal, intimate, and silent. After finishing in the barn, the intruder moved into the farmhouse. He found the new maid in her bedroom. Then, he approached the crib of little Joseph, only 2 years old. He extinguished the entire bloodline in a single hour. But the true horror of Hinterkaifeck isn't the murder itself. It is what happened after. For 3 days following the massacre, neighbors saw smoke rising from the chimney. The cattle were fed on schedule. There was food eaten in the kitchen. The killer didn't flee. He stayed. He lived amongst the 6 corpses. He warmed himself by their fire, ate their bread, and slept in their beds while the bodies of his victims lay freezing in the barn. He only vanished when the neighbors finally came to check on the missing family. Over 100 suspects were questioned, but to this day, the case remains unsolved. The farmhouse was eventually demolished, leaving nothing but a memorial in the empty fields. But the legend remains, a story of footprints that lead into the darkness, and a guest who waits until you are asleep. If the silence of the Hinterkaifeck farm makes you shiver, you might think safety lies in a crowd. You might think, I'll move to a nice suburb. I'll have neighbors. I'll be safe. But sometimes, the danger doesn't hide in the dark woods. Sometimes, it lives right next door, and it sends you letters. In June 2014, Derek and Maria Broaddus bought their dream home. Number 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey. It was a magnificent 6-bedroom estate, a place to grow old, a place for their 3 young children to play. They hadn't even moved in yet. They were just painting walls, dreaming of their future. Then, Derek checked the mail. Inside the mailbox was a thick, white envelope, addressed simply to the new owner. The letter began warmly, but quickly descended into madness. Dearest new neighbor at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighborhood. But then, the tone shifted. The writer claimed to be a sentry, a guardian. My grandfather watched the house in the 1,920 seconds, and my father watched in the 1,960 seconds. It is now my time. Do you know the history of the house? Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard? Why are you here? I will find out. Then the writer turned his attention to the children. He knew their names. He knew their nicknames. I am pleased to know your names now, and the names of the young blood you have brought to me. The letter read. Will the young blood play in the basement? Or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very afraid if I were them. It is far away from the rest of the house. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream. Derek and Maria were terrified. They went to the police, but there was no DNA, no fingerprints, just the chilling words of a ghost. They stopped bringing the children to the house. Weeks later, a second letter arrived. Have they found what is in the walls yet? With time, they will. I have been watching. I pass by many times a day. 657 Boulevard is my job, my life, my obsession. The Broaddus family looked at their neighbors differently now. Was it the old man across the street sitting on his lawn chair? Was it the eccentric couple next door who kept their blinds drawn? Everyone was a suspect. Every friendly wave felt like a threat. They never moved in. Not for a single night. The dream house became a multi-million-dollar prison. 6 months after buying it, they put it back on the market. But the rumors had spread. Who would buy a house that came with a stalker? The letters continued. You are despised by the house, the watcher wrote. And the watcher won. Eventually, the house was sold at a massive loss. The Broaddus family moved far away. But to this day, despite private investigators and FBI analysis, the identity of the watcher remains a mystery. So tonight, before you go to sleep, look out your window. Look at the dark houses across the street. Is someone standing there, watching you? Maybe it is their turn. Sometimes, the scariest mysteries aren't about someone breaking in. They are about why we choose to walk away. Why would 5 grown men abandon a warm car to walk into a freezing blizzard? Why would they starve to death in a room full of food? Welcome to the Plumas National Forest. Welcome to the madness of the Yuba County Five. The 24th of February 1978. 5 friends, affectionately known as the Boys, drove home after watching a college basketball game. They were happy. Their team had won. They had snacks in the car. They were excited for a tournament of their own the next day. They stopped at a convenience store for chocolate bars and milk. It was a perfectly normal night. Until it wasn't. Instead of driving south to their warm beds in Yuba City, for reasons known only to ghosts, they turned east. They drove deep into the remote Plumas National Forest. The road turned from asphalt to dirt, and from dirt to deep snow. Eventually, their car got stuck. But here is the first mystery. The car wasn't broken. The gas tank wasn't empty. They could have simply pushed it out, or ran the heater and waited. Instead, they opened the doors, stepped into the snow, and walked into the darkness. There was a witness. A man named Joseph Shines was stuck in his own car nearby that night, suffering a mild heart attack. He saw headlights. He saw flashlights. He heard voices. He called out for help, but the lights immediately went dark. The voices stopped. Instead of helping a dying man or asking for help themselves, the 5 men hid, as if they were running from something or someone. Months passed. The snow melted, and the horror was revealed. Deep in the mountains, nearly 20 miles from their car, searchers found an abandoned Forest Service trailer. Inside, they found the body of Ted Waher. He was wrapped in 8 bed sheets, frozen to death. But he didn't die quickly. His beard growth suggested he lived for up to 13 weeks. 13 weeks of slow, agonizing starvation. And here is the detail that will keep you awake at night. Just a few feet away from Ted's body was a locker. It was packed with enough canned food, dry rations, and fruit to keep all 5 men alive for a year. There was a propane tank outside, full of gas, ready to heat the trailer. Ted weighed 200 pounds when he went missing. When they found him, he was barely 100. He starved to death, surrounded by food. He froze to death next to a heater he never turned on. Why? The remains of the others were found scattered in the woods as the snow receded. Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling were just bones, dragged apart by animals. Gary Mathias, the only one who might have known the truth, was never found. Only his tennis shoes were left behind in the trailer. Did fear drive them mad? Did they think they were being hunted? Or did their minds simply break under the weight of the silent mountain? The Yuba County 5 case remains a monument to human fragility. It proves that sometimes survival isn't about strength, it's about perception. They walked away from safety. They ignored sustenance. They chose the cold. And somewhere in those woods, the answer lies buried, perhaps wearing a pair of tennis shoes, waiting for someone to find it. 3 stories, 3 locations, but one shared truth. Whether in a farmhouse, a suburban street, or the deep wilderness, we are never as safe as we think we are. Thank you for watching. Sleep well, if you can.